Persona 5 is a very good game, and it's a story-driven game, so if you haven't played it, I suggest clicking off the video right now, because I'm gonna be lightly spoiling an entire arc of the game. Unless you're cool with that. In which case, so, okay, let's get going. So yeah, I'm one of those people, alright? I played Persona 5 because of Smash Bros. But you know what? That doesn't make me any less of a fan, you know? It's a good thing when Smash can introduce you to new games. But the point of me saying this is that I didn't buy Persona 5 until early 2019. I haven't even owned the games for 2 years yet, meaning that out of all of my favorite games, I've had the least time with it. Yet since then, I've beaten Persona 5 and I'm about halfway through my Royal playthrough. I really do love this game, and when I first played it, it was something new to me. Sure, I'd played RPGs before, but an RPG mixed with a life sim? That was unfamiliar. But one thing that made me feel right at home was the game's palace system, because as a self-proclaimed Zelda nerd, I recognized that the palaces resembled the dungeon system found in Zelda games. Specifically Phantom Hourglass, with Mementos being this game's version of the Temple of the Ocean King. I love all of the palaces in this game except for Okumura's, and I think that they all have unique yet fitting themes and aesthetics that make them stand out from each other without feeling out of place. This is the kind of stuff you can only get away with in a game with a premise like Persona. In any other game, people would complain about aesthetics clashing. So seeing as most of the palaces in the game are so good, it took me a while to decide which one was my favorite. But even before I went as far as making that decision, one of them always stuck out to me. And that was Futaba's Palace. Futaba's Palace is one of the most unique in the game. It's the only palace that belongs to a future Phantom Thief, and that on its own sets it apart. In the rest of the game, it's easy to get bored by the pattern of, oh, this evil adult is doing illegal stuff, let's change their heart. This whole arc is different. The whole Medjed aspect takes a back seat. It's not really a story of the Phantom Thieves trying to take down someone heinous. It's a story of them trying to help someone broken. Before this arc, the idea that anyone can have a palace hadn't really been sold to us yet. Every palace owner before this is some sort of evil adult with messed up intentions and a screwed up view of society. They all think that they're better than everyone or that they're owed something. Well, Futaba is the opposite. She doesn't think she's owed anything. She thinks she's the worst and responsible for her mother's death. She closes herself off from the rest of the world. And this hits hard, even as someone who's never had to deal with depression before. If they were gonna give any Phantom Thief a palace, it had to be Futaba. It's kinda genius because Futaba is so closed off from everyone that the palace has no choice but to compensate by giving us insight into her backstory and inner turmoil. Every early arc in the game is very much about whatever new Phantom Thief is introduced to the team, but even still the palace that comes with it usually belongs to someone else. Every palace has little nuggets of information and bits of story inside, but they usually pertain to the palace owner specifically, and not the new Phantom Thief in question. Futaba's Palace contrasts this because it is all about her. Those little nuggets of story you get, they're about her. It is impossible for you to not be intimately familiar with the mindset of this character by the end of the arc. The little puzzles you have to do in this palace are a legitimate highlight for me. I mean, yeah, probably because I like puzzles, but the fact that every single puzzle shows you some sort of tragic event from Futaba's past adds another layer to it. It's a really effective way to convey these things in an interactive way that never feels expositional. The level design in this palace is a feat as well. I mean, it's inherently linear because it is a pyramid, but they split it up in a way that doesn't make it feel as linear as it is. It's kind of like Shido's Palace in the sense that you know where you're supposed to eventually be in the end, but there are a lot of side ventures that you have to complete in order to get there. Other palaces will put you on a track that you blindly follow until the end. Futaba's Palace still puts you on a track, but at least you know where you're actually going. The aesthetics of this palace are brilliant as well. I mean, who doesn't love ancient Egypt? Don't get me wrong though, the theming in this palace is very on the nose, just like all the other ones. Oh, there's a vast desert because she feels isolated, and her palace is a tomb because she thinks that she's as good as dead. Isn't that deep? But in all seriousness, it works. The ancient Egyptian aesthetic mixed in with the little computer motifs to represent Futaba's affinity for technology, it's all really nice to look at. And since this is the only palace in the game that doesn't reference the geography of their world outside of the metaverse, the palace also gives us a cool section where you have to go out into a little town and fight a grave robber. Again, another really cool thing that was only possible in this palace. But you know what? I can see this palace not working for a lot of people. It's worth noting that your enjoyment of this palace will be affected by how much you buy Futaba as a character. And yeah, a lot of people may find themselves getting annoyed by her battle quotes or her internet slang, but I'm of the opinion that Futaba is one of the best characters in this game. There's something so compelling about seeing a character who thinks that they're worthless finally stand up and have some agency, and the fact that this is a constant struggle for Futaba is even more realistic. I hate it when characters can just flip a switch and become a completely different person. Futaba's development is like a hike. It's a long, drawn-out process, but when it's over, and you can stand on that mountaintop and see the incredible view, you'll realize it was all worth it in the end. So, join me next time when I talk about